Steve, you need to sign all that. Right? Good afternoon, everybody. It is Tuesday, March the 10th, 5 p.m. And we are sitting as committee of the whole, and we are meeting in Town Hall in the village of Westport. We'll call this meeting to order.
We will begin this meeting of Committee of the Whole by acknowledging that we are meeting on Aboriginal land that has been inhabited by Indigenous peoples from the beginning. Long before today, as we gather here, there have been Aboriginal peoples who have been the stewards of this place. In particular, we acknowledge the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Wendat, and Haudenosaunee peoples.
Thank you very much. Well done, Councillor Aragona. Adoption of the agenda is 3.1 is next, and it's moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona, that the agenda for the Committee of the Whole held on March 10th, 2026 be adopted as presented. Any comments? Call the question, all in favor, and that's carried. Any declarations of conflict or pecuniary interest? Seeing none, we'll come to item number 5, which is our delegation. We have Lori Chapman with us today to bring a delegation from the Better Together Circle group. So please come up to the podium. Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Mayor Jones,
Welcome.
councillors, yes. My name is Lori Chapman. I'm here representing BTC, the Better Together Circle. I'm here to tell you about BTC, what we do, and to ask you for your continued support. BTC is a volunteer group. We're based in Westport and Meadow Lakes. We organize community events that focus on the environment and social issues. Our goal is to develop resilience in ourselves and our community so that we have the capacity to deal with the climate crisis and the social challenges we face today. Now, our logo, you can go back to the logo, please, Kim. Thank you. It says it best. Note the sky, the land, and the water, represented by the sun's rays, the tree with its white roots, and the blue, of course, is the water. For us, the arms with the hands extending symbolize our belief that in caring for the earth, we are also caring for all living things. And I like to think too that the blue in the logo encircles everything, and the way that the lakes and the rivers and the ponds surround us in Westport. Better Together Circle, you go to the next slide, and then the next one too, please, Kim. Began in 2019 with a group who wanted to do more. They, inspired by the film, a film called Resilience, Transforming Our Community, a climate crisis film of hope and call to action, community groups concerned with the water, the environment, food security formed until, the next slide, COVID hit, 2020. And the focus became the immediate needs of the community, which at that time were making masks. And next slide, please. Then in 2021, groups could get together, and BTC organized both a healing walk and Westport's Orange Shirt Day. Next slide. That's also on Shirt Day. And now here at the Cove, we collaborated with the Canadian-wide library project honoring murdered and missing Indigenous women and girls. Next slide, please. We brought in authors like Diana Beresford Kruger, who spoke to a sold-out crowd of the audience, for a sold-out audience of the United Church. And then the next slide, we brought in actors and artists, doing Brookfield birds there. And this brings us to the present. The photographs that Sandy has kindly prepared following these are not meant to be studied in detail, but are meant to highlight what we do at our eco-fests and our eco-cafes. We bring fun, lifelong learning for all ages. And this one, we build community, shown here, our eco-cafes that run for 9 weeks in the winter. We gather at the Cove to share ideas, skills, and knowledge. And the next one is showing that we plant, baby plant. We have seedlings and pocket forest in those pictures. This year's Eco Fest will take place at the Cove, May 23rd, from 10 till 3. It's a Saturday. We hope that the draw of vendors and exhibits and speakers and performers will bring business to our downtown merchants and also show off our village as an eco-tourism destination. A lot of what we do is in partnership with other environmental groups. We couldn't do what we do without a little help from our friends, specifically the village the Westport Lions Club, Frontenac Arch Biosphere Reserve Network, Westport Rideau Lakes Public Library, Madden and Company Tree Service, the Dark Sky Project, and Westport Senior Living. And next slide, please. So we come to the point where we'd like to thank you, the village. No, huge thank you from Sandy. Yeah. For your support of our projects, being kind, as in the use of the town park, the arena, the harbor, or as financial assistance with this year's Orange Shirt Day. But going forward, we're working with two initiatives. First, the Dark Sky Project, John Christvick, Top Shelf Distilleries. He sees an opportunity here for tourism for Westport if we can attain the designation of dark sky community. And BTC supports that initiative because we see that darker skies would protect our wildlife and our water. And we look forward to knowing more about the policy changes that council suggests regarding that. And regarding blue communities, in addition to being a dark sky community, BTC envisions Westport becoming a blue community. And to become a blue community, single-use plastic water bottles cannot be sold or provided at municipal events.
So you dropped off what? Single-use
Plastic
bottles, what?
water bottles cannot be provided or sold at municipal events. We realize visitors need water to drink. We've had events too that
Yeah, no,
sort of
yeah.
consider that as well. And BTC would like to work with councillors to find solutions. More water fountains, campaigns, lug a mug, educational campaigns, water trucks, water jugs. In the meantime, we hope that town and council will continue to support us as you have been doing. And we ask that you continue to work with us as partners in our desire to build a resilient and a sustainable community. Because we're better together.
I didn't mean to throw you off there.
No,
I just couldn't hear
okay.
your voice. Every time you looked at the screen, I was missing what you were saying.
Oh, okay.
And I thought
okay.
you said plastic bottles couldn't be sold in the village, which would be a challenge,
Exactly.
but you said sold at events, which is different.
Well, can't be sold, like it's not as a commercial place can sell them. It's just the events that the municipality runs.
Yeah,
Yeah,
once you repeated that, I understood where you're
Yeah,
going.
because we can't, do it.
So you talked about blue skies,
Yeah.
dark skies.
Yes,
We're waiting for staff to bring back a report. Because you alluded to see what policies, we don't know what they're gonna be yet. We
Right.
directed staff to bring a report back and we expect to see that in the next month or so.
okay, that was basically our little
Okay.
nudge.
And
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 then
for
the other-
the water,
yeah,
so we have those stations in the arena now.
yes, yes.
And staff will be looking at budget time
Okay,
to talk to council then, so they'll have the costings and they'll have an idea if they're possible anywhere else.
well,
So I'm gonna open up for questions, but I do wanna step ahead of council. I would suggest you talk to, you get a lot further by working with people
yes.
than having council order it. So for the
Yes.
people who hold events, you know, I'd
Yeah.
really strongly suggest that you talk to them. So
Right.
that the type of events that, like the Westport Arts Council would be
Yeah.
one that holds events
Yeah.
where there may or may not be water. I don't know, they sold it over the last little while. There was a business in town that provided it because it's hot. But just
Okay.
my advice is consider encouraging them as colleagues rather than coming at it from a bylaw.
Yeah, I remember working at the beach for the Lions Club, and I was more concerned about nutrition at the time. So I was almost promoting the water bottles versus the pop can.
Yeah.
But now, at the time, that's what I was thinking, but now, getting into this group, I realized, oh yes, that's
Yeah.
not good either. So what are the alternatives to that at the beach as
So
well,
the beach
right?
is, the beach is not in the village,
That's true.
but a
But once
solution,
again, it's gonna be, yeah, sorry,
a solution for you is to speak to the people holding the event.
exactly,
Yeah,
okay.
and see if you can encourage. Okay, open it up to questions now. Sorry. Go ahead, Councillor Aragona.
Yeah, just following up on that conversation, so what we've done at the car show, that's just as an example, is that we bought 2 large water jugs and we have water stations at the registration area, so that seems to have covered it there, so that might be.
Right. Right, and to encourage people, I guess, within that to bring their own water bottles instead of you having to supply the cups, plastic cups or whatever for those, I just
Yeah, we
thinking
don't,
ahead, yeah.
we don't provide the plastic cups, and a lot of people come up
Yeah.
and use the stations. We've even had people come up and use the stations to provide water for their dogs, so
Right, right, same with your bike tour,
we'll be looking at that as well.
yeah, they'll need their water, yeah.
Councillor,
Crowder.
yeah, that's, I thought you were gonna speak, so I stopped.
Blue skies designation, so you link that only to water bottles, is that the case? So
The blue
there's some,
community, no, dark skies is not
no,
connected,
blue water,
community.
yeah.
Yeah, it's only the water bottles, if you serve it correctly, because there, the original mandate, 2009, it was started by Maud Barlow, for the right to all for clean water, which we have, most communities do now. But what she was, they were concerned about at the time was the privatization of water, not just selling it, but also it's a shared resource, it's our resource, and people they wanted money, public money, municipal money to go into keeping the water clean and safe and drinkable. And if you're siphoning off the money towards private companies, apparently Harper did, things similar to that to encourage or support the privatization of water, drinking water. So that's why there's only 3 things they want people to do, and we've already got clean water and public water. Is the last thing is to not sell. They know they can't manage the stores from selling, but they want to work at the municipal level so that we don't sell it. Now, we're thinking from an environmental point of view in terms of the water bottles themselves, because they too greenhouse gases in the production of the bottles and the distribution and the transport.
Thanks.
Okay,
Okay,
anybody else for questions? Go ahead, Councillor Craig.
Just more of a comment, I'm a teacher by day, and
Yes.
so, our school has an eco club, and it's just really powerful to see when young children are participating in this and owning it. They're great educators as well, so I think one of your members has reached out to our eco club. I'm not sure about the 2 local schools here or not, but
okay, good. Where
I'm at South Crosby and Elton.
Okay,
Yeah, so,
okay.
but it's really powerful to see, they're sending the messages home, and it's
Yeah,
great to come from, it's lifelong learners, right?
yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I'm a little teacher of the little ones as well, and yeah, it's where to start.
They would be a good group for you to partner with. They came to council. Were you part of that,
Yeah,
Amy? Yeah.
they got the recycling, receptacles over at the baseball field.
Yeah,
Oh,
Yeah.
They did a delegation
Yeah.
with Councillor.
Oh, that's great.
yeah.
At the Eco Fest, we have Sandy Fuchs, the local public schools, and they did within their writing program and the art program, posters about the ecology of the area, and it was, so much fun.
Yeah,
And then all the plays they did it. Yeah, they're our future, aren't they?
Yes.
thank you so much, Laura.
Okay,
Okay, so we gave you the answer to both.
yeah, except, we'll try and find out about the
Okay,
policy for the dark skies.
it's
Thank
coming.
you. Yeah,
Okay, thank you so much for
Thank
coming.
you.
You're more than welcome to stay, should you like to, and
Okay,
we understand if you
we're off.
would rather go home and have dinner. All right, so that was good. Okay, that takes us to 6.1. We've got Steve Pence online. And so this is a discussion around, this is our first glance at, I think that's probably the way to word it, at the zoning bylaw. There's been an opportunity for members of the public to meet with Steve. That was a couple of months ago. I understand that there is yet to be a public meeting, so we'll kind of walk through the next steps for us. But I think you have a slide deck, maybe, Steve? So first of all, welcome. It's been too long since we've seen you. What's going on?
Well, thank you for that. Can you hear us?
I can hear you.
Okay, good. We did have a few technical difficulties here, so we're actually sitting side by side, huddling in front of my laptop just to make this work. I have Arjan here with me, and yeah, so tonight we have or this afternoon, late afternoon, we have a PowerPoint presentation that will flash on the screen, and we'll work through that to provide some context for where we're at, and we'll leave some opportunity for questions. So let me share this here now.
Should be able to share now, Steve.
Okay,
There you go.
so is my screen with the words Village of Westport new comprehensive zoning bylaw on your screen now?
It is.
Okay, so I'm going to let Arjan present here this evening, and I guess I'll just turn it over to Arjan, and we'll have a brief presentation, and we'll have questions from the committee.
Yeah, so hello, members of council. So as Steve already kind of mentioned, I'm Arjun Sur, I'm a planner here at Novatech. I'm with Steve Pence, who is a senior project manager here at Novatech as well, and we've been engaged to work on the zoning bylaw for the Village of Westport. So before we begin, I'll just give a quick overview of how this presentation is going to be organized. So we'll start with an update of where we're at with the zoning bylaw to date. I know members of council would want to know that. We'll then give a brief overview of some of the key changes that we made, and members of council would have had an opportunity to review the bylaw document, preliminary draft document itself, as well as the memo that was attached to that as well. And then finally, after we give an overview, we'll conclude by explaining what our next sort of steps will be. So I'll just go to the second slide here. So you can sort of see on this flow chart where we're at. We're currently on the first task of phase 3, which you see highlighted in green, and that task is to complete a preliminary draft 1 of the zoning bylaw. And as I said, our intention here is to receive some early feedback from council on the bylaw document so far. These comments that we receive from council will help inform a markup of the zoning bylaw document. So it'd be the first draft of the zoning bylaw document, and that once we have the blessing of council on that document would be what we would release to the public for consultation during the statutory open house. So if we go to the next slide over here, this is the third slide in our presentation. So I'll just run through really quickly what kind of, overview of what the changes were that have been proposed. So section 2, regarding the definitions, we've carried over a lot of the definitions from the current zoning bylaw. Some of those definitions have been revised in their language for clarity and also to comply with current legislation. And then new definitions have also been added as part of modernizing the bylaw, but also to provide definitions that are in line with current legislation. Section 3 of the bylaw, this would deal with the general provisions. It deals with much of the same content matter as is in the existing zoning bylaw, with some provisions being revised. So there's just some notable updates include updates made to the accessory use provisions, which we've updated to provide more robust provisions. New parking rates, you will have seen there's significantly more detail on some new parking rates that have been provided, as well as loading space exemptions as well. And then also new yard setback provisions have been, or rather they've been strengthened with more robust provisions. And then section 4, which you see as specific use provisions. So this is a new section that we've added to the zoning bylaw, and this was previously sort of blended in with the general provisions under the previous zoning bylaw, or under the current zoning bylaw rather. And so this is a new section that we've done. We've kind of divorced the two sections, and this will provide some provisions for things like additional residential units and coach houses. One of the key changes to additional residential units is permitting 2 additional residential units on urban service lots, which is in line with provincial legislation, and then providing performance standards for those additional residential uses and coach houses that have additional residential units. New provisions have also been added regarding short-term rentals on lots with public street access and to permit and regulate outdoor commercial patios. So I'll jump to the next slide then. So this slide and the next will kind of just discuss some of the key changes that were made to the bulk of the bylaw, sections 5 to 12, the zone provisions. And so in section 5, one of the things that's been added is the addition of the source water protection overlay, which you see on that map is sort of that green blob. And that corresponds, that basically is intended to restrict land uses that would pose potential drinking water threats within that area. So that's something that's been added. New residential zone categories have also been added, and performance standards have been updated for that. So we've now broken the residential zone categories into 3, or rather 4 zone categories. We've got the R1 zone, which is intended for detached, semi-detached, and duplex dwellings. And those are, the R1 zone provisions are further broken down into subzones based on servicing levels. So there's a subzone R1A for full services, R1B for partial services, and R1C for fully private services. There's also the new R2 zone, which is intended for triplexes and townhouse dwellings, and then the new R3 zone for apartment dwellings. And then a separate residential limited services zone has been created to recognize residential waterfront lots within the village that are not on improved streets. And then, with respect to the watercolors development, multiple site-specific exemptions have been carried over, with some changes to reflect the aforementioned updated performance standards. And these exceptions are going to be reviewed and potentially further consolidated in future drafts of the zoning bylaw. And then in terms of commercial zones, the highway commercial zone has been carried forward, and that zone has been designed to be intended for larger commercial uses along county roads in the village. And then the local commercial zone is a new zone category we've created to recognize some of the smaller commercial uses that occur outside of the village core. And so, there will be some rare cases where highway commercial zoned or properties that are currently zoned highway commercial are going to be proposed to be local commercial. And we will propose to add exception zones to kind of recognize those existing uses that are on the property so they don't lose those rights. So I'll go to the next slide. So in terms of the village core zones, so that's a proposed zone that's been added, and this, obviously it's in the village core. It's intended to allow for a mix of uses and provide a maximum front yard setback. And this is consistent with the direction in the official plan for the village core and harborfront designation. Institutional zone is proposed to be carried over, although public uses in the village, so for things like village infrastructure, is proposed to be permitted in all zones. Open space zones are proposed to permit passive recreation with few structures, but there will be an exception zone for the arena property. Sewage treatment facility zone will be added to recognize lands associated with the sewage treatment facility. A rural zone will be added for low intensity uses on private services. And then a development reserve zone will be added to essentially safeguard lands for future development and only permit the existing uses and conservation uses. And then finally, just site-specific exceptions will be reviewed as we continue to work through this. And either they'll be carried forward or they'll be removed if they're no longer necessary. And so if we go to the next slide. So as I kind of touched on before, the next steps are to implement council's feedback that we receive at this meeting today into a draft 1 of the zoning bylaw. Once we have that, we would like to get council's, blessing on that before we release that version of the document to the public. That version of the document will then be what is presented to the public in advance of the open house, which is targeted for the end of April. And then following the feedback we received during the open house, a second draft of the zoning bylaw with tracked changes will be released in advance of the statutory public meeting. And so that statutory public meeting is anticipated to occur, as you can sort of see on this flow chart, in June of 2026. And then that public meeting will conclude phase 3, with phase 4 beginning with the completion of the final draft of the zoning bylaw. So if we go to the next slide, that's it for my presentation. So happy to take any questions on this.
Thank you very much. Team, questions. I'll start with Councillor Cardy and then Councillor Farrell.
Okay, thank you, through you, Madam Mayor. The comprehensive zoning bylaw, does it discuss anything about parking or sizes of these additional residential units that will be permitted on lots? Has parking or anything like that been put into place or thought about for the zoning bylaw?
Take that.
Yeah, so the short answer to that is yes, we have looked at parking for the new zoning bylaw. You know, I'll have to review it and Steve has it open here, but my recollection is that for an additional residential unit, there wouldn't be any requirement for parking. And my understanding for that is that this is a requirement that comes to us from the Planning Act, so it's not something that we can necessarily ask for. It's something that is spelled out quite clearly for us in the Planning Act that requires, or rather prohibits us from passing or making a zoning bylaw that would require parking for those units.
Thanks.
Okay, okay, Councillor Argona.
I had 3 questions, but I always like when a presenter answers one of my questions before I get to it. So thank you for addressing the fact that the zoning amendments we'd already approved over the past couple of years have been included. My other 2 questions are not related to that, but one is about the village core. I saw there's a carryover of the conversion from residential to non-residential and from non-residential back to residential. But I didn't see that the conversion, if a conversion happens, it must maintain commercial use on street level. Did I miss that, or is that intentionally been removed, or can you just address that?
So we do have, so we're sort of working through this sort of on the spot with your question. So bear with us here as we make sure we understand this question and provide a good answer. So in the village core zone, we've listed a bunch of non-residential uses and a few residential uses that's consistent with your current bylaw. And then in the residential use category here, we're allowing things like apartment dwellings and the dwelling units in the upper stories of non-residential buildings. That's all consistent with your current bylaw. Any existing dwellings that occur within that zone are permitted, and then former residential buildings converted back to residential use from non-residential use. So former residential buildings converted back into residential use. So there's nothing there requiring them to maintain a non-residential use.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I would refer back to the 2008 bylaw that specifically had that clause in there and had a line that said that in the village core commercial sector, if conversions happened, the main floor at street level rather had to continue to have a commercial use and that was intended to protect the downtown core business community. So I would like to see something in there like that. I think that's very important to make sure that we have that. And again, it's in the 2008 bylaw. I'd just like to see that carried over.
Okay, a good point. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
My other question is related to B&Bs and short-term rentals, and this may be an easy question, but I didn't see Airbnbs specifically called out. Does the definition of short-term rentals include Airbnbs? And if it does, should we include a time limit or a rental time as to how long the Airbnb is being rented? I know that it's other municipalities do that. They have either 28 days or 30 days. I didn't see that in the bylaw. I'm just asking if it's covered and whether or not we should be more specific.
Yeah, so there's kind of two aspects to that question, so I'll try and answer both of as I can. So Airbnbs are something that would absolutely be included within the definition of short-term rental. We just don't use the language Airbnb because it refers to a specific business. Like, if there's like a Verbo or something or whatever other like app or something that has short-term rentals, we want that to be covered within that definition. But you are correct, Councilor Argona, that would be covered under the definition of short-term rental. In terms of the amount of time, like consecutive time that someone could stay at an Airbnb, there's there's kind of two different approaches, I guess, to deal with that. And there's one approach which is that, we put that in a zoning bylaw. And there is a provision there that would say, you can a maximum amount of rent is 28 days. But then there's also kind of the other flip side of that, and that we kind of weighed both things, was that is that something that's necessarily appropriate in a zoning bylaw, or is that something that is appropriate in a short-term rental bylaw? So we're kind of trying to figure out what would be the appropriate place for that, because we want the zoning to really be a land use bylaw. That's kind of the point of it. When we're specifying length of a tenure, I don't know if we're venturing outside of the lines of what a zoning bylaw is supposed to be used for, and if there are other bylaws that are more appropriate to deal with that, and that would give council potentially additional regulatory abilities over short-term rentals.
Just further to that, some municipalities, I imagine all throughout Ontario, but I can think of a couple in Eastern Ontario, they have licensing bylaws that deal specifically with short-term rentals. And they require, the owner operator to pay a fee to the municipality to make sure that things like building code and fire systems and all those sorts of things are in place so that when they're operating safely. And in that type of bylaw is where you could also lay down the rules for things like days of occupancy so that you can have some control over that. To Arjan's point, that doesn't really fit within the sort of within the context of a zoning bylaw. Zoning bylaw is a land use document, so we're trying to keep those two separate. You sometimes see things like that included in zoning bylaws. Could get away with it, I suppose, if you look at it that way, but it's not really the space for it.
Yeah, that answer your question?
It answers the question. It brings up others in terms of not the zoning bylaw, but what we do have in place or not have in place. So we'll probably question back to staff in terms of what we have in place for short-term rentals such as Airbnbs, and whether or not we need to do
Okay,
something.
so we maybe park
We can
that
park
since it's not part of the delegation, but we'll come back to it when they're done. How's that? Councillor Crawford, did you have your hand up? Yeah, go ahead.
Could you just expand on any changes made to the source water protection zone? I wasn't clear, I didn't have the former, like, was it enlarged, changed in any way, like, okay.
No, the zone it's a very simple approach, I would say, that we've incorporated into this bylaw, and it will really benefit from input from the source water protection folks at the Conservation Authority. But it is meant to mirror the source or the wellhead protection areas surrounding the wells as per the source water protection plans and as per the official plan schedules. I expect that the CA will have some comments on that section that we'll happy to address to make sure that it's working to their needs and to the village's needs.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure there hadn't been changes to it, I wasn't clear from what you said, thanks.
Councillor Crawford.
To Mayor Jones, question about the local commercial. Why, without seeing the map, and we have, I don't know, 2 square miles of area here, and we seem to have a lot of zones. Is this local commercial? Is it a big area? I'm just wondering in that when you read on further, you still have site-specific exceptions. So if there's a commercial business in a residential area, why would it, mostly residential, why would it not just be a site exception as opposed to having another zone where you're gonna have exceptions anyway?
Yeah, we took the approach that in your current bylaw, you currently have outside the village core, what they call the I think it's central commercial, you have a highway commercial zone that stretches along Concession Street and in through the village a little bit along the county roads. And then within those areas on Bedford Street and I think on Main Street, there's a couple properties that were also zoned highway commercial. And those really, in our view, aren't highways. Those are more local streets, even though they might be under county jurisdiction or operate as a main street in the village. So we chose to call those local commercial to try and keep the highway commercial types of uses out of those areas. And in doing so, we took a close look at the uses that are there today, and we created exceptions to make sure that those uses don't lose their conforming rights. And I guess to your point, arguably, what's the difference if we call them just like a commercial zone, or we call them highway commercial and limit the uses? At the end of the day, we're limiting those uses to a smaller subset of uses than what you would be permitting in a highway commercial zone, because they are amongst other residential types of uses. So that's the approach we took. It's subject to comment and review, but we felt that those, and really it only happens in a couple places. I think there's, if I'm going a bit by memory, but the one instance is on Bedford Street where the, I think it's where the self-storage facilities are. There's that one is a local commercial. There's another one on Rideau Street that is, I think there's a museum there. And I think that might be the only two that we felt weren't really appropriately called a highway commercial zone, but rather are more suited for a local commercial. So. Oh,
Okay.
sorry, there's one more local commercial right beside the self-storage facilities. I believe it's a restaurant, and it's outside the downtown core. So that's why it got a local commercial zone as well.
So next step, so this has been an opportunity to, for the public who's watching, to know that this is still an item that's under discussion. And if I heard you correctly, the next step is a information session. And it's just, there's an information session, then does it come to committee of the whole, then a public meeting? Just what's the sequencing of events there, Steve?
Yeah, our intent with this meeting tonight was to present you with a sort of a preliminary draft of where we're at. We've done a lot of the heavy lifting. We think we have a good working draft that's been prepared. And we were hoping to receive some comments from the committee on this draft. And we have in our mind that there's still some tweaking that we need to do. Some of it's formatting, some of it's editorial, and some of it's tweaking some of the provisions just to make sure we get it to the best of our ability. We tend to bring that back to the committee as a redlined track changes, so you can see what's changed from the version in front of you today. And then we're hoping that you would be in a position to say, yes, we are satisfied with this as a first draft that we can go to the public with.
Okay.
Because we didn't want to go to the public with a draft that hadn't been presented to yourselves first. Once we have that blessing, which we presume would come towards the end of the month of March, we would then advertise for the open house, which is the public session where the public would be invited to come meet with project representatives and learn about the bylaw. And there's a 20-day period leading up to the open house. So people should have the better part of a month to review the draft and prepare themselves for asking questions.
Okay.
After that open house, we'll presumably have some comments from attendees and maybe comments from yourselves as well, that we can then revise that draft a second time and come back, show you what those comments have generated in terms of change. And then we'll get to the point where we're going to be ready to go to a public meeting, which is the second statutory requirement for consulting with the public. And then after that public meeting, we'll be in a position to, at any time, adopt a bylaw. Our council will be able to approve the bylaw. And I should say that there's opportunities for change as we go. We're just trying to keep this sort of streamlined in a process that will allow us to get to that end date of which I believe is August, to have a bylaw in place, because we get into September, we're getting close to the election date. So we've set ourselves for an August approval. So some aggressive timelines there, considering that we have changes to make, we have meetings to schedule, and we have revisions to make following those meetings. Or changes to make following those meetings, assuming there will be some. So
Can
hopefully,
you give,
does that answer your question then? Or
yeah, it's perfect, thank you. I just, can you give us a sense of the turnout at the first public get-together meeting that you had? Because I'm not hearing a lot of concern from people. Doesn't mean they don't have opinions and comments, but I'm not hearing from anybody. I'm just looking at my colleagues here. We're not hearing people are angry about something. Was that the tone, that they were learning and offering some suggestions?
that was an interesting meeting. I think we had around 20 to 30 or so people attend. The way we structured that meeting was where we had a presentation that was intended to educate people and provide them with some insight and overview of what a zoning bylaw is, how does it differ from an official plan, what the process would be to prepare a new draft bylaw. And we answered, I would say, a good number of questions from the public. So I think the public was fairly well engaged. We also had boards on display that presented the existing document. And we also provided people with an opportunity to use sticky notes to ask questions and post them on the boards to encourage them to look at their properties and see what they were zoned, and try to give us some ideas of things that they felt were important to them in terms of zoning matters. So we got some comment on that, not a lot. I think the more people that would have contributed to that process, the more it would have generated in terms of other interests. But we did our best, and we were there for 2 hours. Like I say, we had about 20 or 30 people. It was a snowy night, but I think it was successful in terms of what it was intended to do.
Right.
The next open house will be an opportunity where people that choose to attend will have an opportunity to really engage themselves in the content of the draft. The first one was really learning about the project. The next opportunity will be where they can ask questions that are specific to their property or specific to to any aspects of the bylaw.
Okay. That answer anybody's questions where we're going? Okay, I think we're good. Thank you for coming on tonight. We know that next what we'll see is a red line version with some of our suggestions, and we like your we want to thank you for your timeline. We'd very much like this to be wrapped up July or August, as you say. Hopefully it doesn't get complex and that gets sidelined, but we're all of the same mind that if we can move it through before the election, then it's one less thing that the next council has to look at.
Yeah, okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for your comments. And like I say, our intention here tonight was to give you an update to show you where we're at. We've got a little more work to do. We'll bring you back something in the next short little while, with the objective of moving through this in the next month to get completed by August.
Good. Okay, everybody's fine with that?
Yeah.
All right, we're good. Thank you very much, team. We appreciate you being on tonight, and go have dinner.
All right, thank you very much. Take care. Bye.
Thank you. So the motion is moved by Councillor Aragona, seconded by Councillor Cardy. The committee of the whole received the report from Novatech regarding the comprehensive zoning bylaw draft 1 for information purposes. All in favor? So Councillor Aragona, we're kind of going off the agenda with your question about that. I wonder if staff could, because it's a simple question as opposed to a notice of motion, right? You're not looking, you're just wondering, do we have anything that stipulates the length of an occupancy at a B&B? I think the answer is going to be no, but I'll let staff say that.
Thank you, through Madam Mayor, no.
Yeah. There we go. So if you're looking for more, we can
deal with it.
have that discussion.
Yeah. Okay.
Shortage of housing may be a consideration as well, rental.
Yeah.
Things to look at for sure, but the answer is no.
Bigger question.
Yeah, exactly right. That's the bigger question. Okay, very good. So we're gonna move to 6.2. which is, administration, the single tier kind of update for everybody. And I'll get the motion on the floor, moved by Councillor Cardy, seconded by Councillor Aragona, that committee of the whole received a report entitled Administration Single Tier Status Update for information purposes, and I'll let the CAO lead that.
Thank you for you, Madam Mayor. So this is just to sort of give you an update on the timeline, give the public an update as well. Originally, we thought it would be a bit quicker than it has. And so you can see there's multiple consultations we have to have with external organizations. And we have to have those prior to submitting a restructuring proposal to the minister. So it's gonna be a bit of a lengthier process than originally anticipated. We still don't have, some of the negotiations nailed down with the county yet either. And as we understand it, they're going through their own process in updating agreements with St. Lawrence Lodge and things like that. So it's just gonna take a bit longer than we anticipated, and I'm happy to field some questions.
It's not much to tell other than update you and the public. So that, I don't see any questions, so I'll just call the question. All in favor? Very good. Thank you very much, Kim. Appreciate that. Now the next is the, special occasion permit, item 6.3. Not special occasion permit, sorry. We're like, what? There's alcohol at town hall. No, there's the, special events policy that's been revised, but it's moved by Councillor Aragona, seconded by Councillor Cardy, that the committee of the whole received the report entitled Administration Special Events Policy Revised Draft. And the committee of the whole recommend that council approve the draft special events policy as presented and amended at the March 10th, 2026 committee of the whole meeting. So just to jog your memory and everybody watching, we've had a couple of kicks at a previous policy. Thank you to staff. They listened to the initial responses, which was is now reflected in the package that you have in your briefing package for committee of the whole. And so with that, I'll open it up to questions. Councillor Aragona.
So I really want to commend the staff on bringing a revised approach to the events policy to the table. I think there was some feedback from the community, and I think that was folded in here in a couple of places. I think the best thing that happened was that it was divided into two streams. So that we're looking at smaller types of events and we're looking at larger types of events, so that works. But I don't think we're completely there yet.
Could be.
I think there's a little bit more work needed on this for a number of reasons. So I think it might be something that we provide additional direction to staff on and maybe defer to another meeting, because if we want to get it right as a Made in Westport policy, I think it needs a little bit more time.
So I'd like to do that tonight. What do you got?
Okay, so
And then here's the thing, because I have Marty Crapper on my shoulder, Councillor Crapper on my shoulder, which is get this out as early as you can for people who are planning events.
Yeah.
So if we can defer it, bring it back April committee of the whole, then it wouldn't be passed until the end of April. Or we can debate it tonight, bring those changes back to council later in March and try and pass it. So on the scheme of things, on the scale of things, maybe that's a better question. How significant are the changes that you're suggesting? Which option fits best?
the changes I'm gonna suggest are gonna be very specific and almost line by line, so it depends on how far we wanna go in this meeting. It would be a significant change to the policy itself. There are some additional things that should be in there. So I think both approaches work. I'm prepared to do both. I would open it up to my other counselor to see what.
So are you ready to proceed line by line? Because they've had the package. They likely are as well.
Yeah.
Okay.
I spend a lot of time looking at other communities. I wouldn't refer to them as policies specifically, but as guidelines that are inclusive of policies. And the theme of those that I really like and do not see at all in here is the notion of council establishing a framework to work with volunteers and community groups with the end purpose of having successful events. I see this as a policy. I think there's parts of the policy that need to be fine tuned. But more importantly, I don't see it as something that will be received with joy by our community volunteers. I see it as something that people will see as an impediment. My list initially of the events that we have currently in the community that will be negatively impacted by this are lengthy, like all of them. And so my worry would be perception as much as practice of what is it that the village is establishing, and is the impact of what it is establishing detrimental to the efforts of our community volunteers and their related events.
Okay, we could probably pick those things up if we go line by line.
Perhaps, but it's more than a policy. I'm looking for an approach by our village that is seen by our members, like we talked about, engaging the groups that are running the events as part of developing what we have in place. As far as I know, I don't think we've done that.
We sent it out, we all told our groups, that's what we were left with at the last meeting. I certainly spoke to my groups. And they just felt that the document was so complicated that was part of the feedback to staff.
yeah.
So they've had the month to look at it.
Mhm.
Councillor Carr.
I tend to agree with Councillor Aragon and Councillor Crawford that definitely needs more work. I really don't know how to describe it. There's a lot of shells and that kind of thing in it. The organizer shall and this. I've read quite a few others where the approach is a team effort. The village will approach the matter in a way that people can not think they're being confronted, they're being assisted. The words could be kinder, I guess. That's it's still, I know that there are obligations that everybody has to meet, but it could present it in a kinder way, a more encouraging way. As a council, I've been disappointed over the years that the village has done absolutely nothing in my mind for the businesses and that kind of thing. That the ACDEV, I sat on 2 committees, they accomplished nothing. Councillor Aragon is involved in a committee right now that's separate from council, that seems to be making great headway. They seem to be doing good things and have a good plan to move ahead. I think that as a council, we should do whatever we can to assist the businesses and have them have no fear of approaching with ideas, no matter how outlandish or whatever. I think that there's just a lot of room here for us to turn this into an opportunity for council, as opposed to putting up any kind of wall for anybody that wants anything done. I know as part of another organization, it was my understanding that they'd be approached by staff, that it wouldn't be the other way around. That they'd be contacted and ask their opinion, and the group I'm involved with hasn't been.
My understanding was, because we were to take that responsibility and ensure that they had it. And so I'm speaking up for staff. That was clear to me, and I followed through with my groups. So just
That was
May have
the
been some
initial plan, but
confusion.
it was my understanding there was to be a work day after that, did I get that wrong or?
No, so thank you, through you, Madam Mayor, just preliminarily before we held those sessions, which is what we talked about originally. I realized that 2 streams may be easier for these groups to be able to comment on, and so that's why I really refined the policy. I'm certainly open to taking the same approach that we took with the first draft, which is public consultation, just realizing that it may not be out until the end of April, which I think was our original timeline. So certainly we can still have those consultations with the public, with the organizations that hold these events and council, Councilor Aragona. I have no issues working with you to kind of refine the policy, or to at least accept your feedback on the policy, and then bring a more comprehensive draft with all the feedback back to the April meeting, if that's what council wants to see.
I think that it requires committee's input, not just one member. So I think we go line by line, we hear what the concerns are, you can hear, the public can hear. Then when you do the consultation with the public, if that's the plan, we've already kind of cleaned up, identified, removed some of the things. If you don't want to do it tonight, if you've got commitments, we can plan another meeting. But I think this is gonna be ours that we have to live with, and I respect, I respect that, it's. I respect the intention from staff bringing this forward. We all know why it's coming.
Absolutely.
And so we gotta get it done. I don't think it impacts businesses, if, unless I'm wrong. You know, Councillor Crapper continues to talk about the volunteers, and we're gonna impact them. Be mindful of businesses, I guess, when you read it, because I haven't read it from the business perspective. But I think we give ourselves till, I don't, we've set a time limit on it. 45 minutes start, and if we're not done by the end of 45 minutes, then we can put it over to the next meeting and continue, but I don't think that one counselor talking to the CAO, and with no disrespect, if we don't agree, then we gotta bring it back the other way. This is the place to hear what you've got to say. So that's my decision. We're gonna proceed with it line by line. I'll call it in 45 minutes. And don't feel pressure, I'm gonna come to you, Marty. Don't feel pressure that we have to get it done, but this is gonna be ours, so I think that we need to do it. We need to hear your concerns. And whether we agree or not, Councillor Crabb.
Yeah, we need to do it right. Timelines aren't as important as the final product. This is something our community's gotta live with. And we want them to want it. And I find that with this particular goal, it takes some conversation with people to understand why and what our agenda actually is. And to Councillor Card's point, it's difficult in written format for people to go, oh yeah, I get it, that's exciting, that, you know, clearly not the.
It's policy.
It's policy. However, I think that like, it's more than a policy that I want to see us achieve.
Okay, well, get that
It's
input.
an approach and and as the Councillor Card said, an optic that we are working as a team with whatever group, and we need those groups to want to work with us too, like, we can't control everything. That's clearly not going to be part of this, so perhaps there's more than just this policy that we need to discuss
I'm
in
open to that.
relation to this.
Absolutely open to that.
And whether we achieve that tonight, and you know, who cares whether it's done for the end of April, honestly, the main events. Well, but I've changed my tune.
Oh, okay, then get off my shoulder.
I'm not, yeah, no, I think the importance, as always, is the end result. Let's not rush this thing, let's do it right.
Okay, but we still gotta roll up our sleeves, team, and do the hard work. We can't expect staff to know what we're thinking. Councillor Cardy and then Councillor Card.
I think, as council, we need to look at it, and as a community, we need to look at it as community involvement from everyone and safety for a lot of these
Agreed.
things.
Yeah.
That's where I'm coming from. I think the things that are being held in our community are amazing and I want them to continue. But safety is a huge thing that I would never think of if I wasn't a counselor in the village of Westport. And I see that now, and I just want the people who are running these events to see how important that safety is, and let's, in a positive way, let's work together to get some things in place so that we can continue doing these great events in a safe way.
For the most part, to Councillor Cardy's point there, most of the groups in Westport do realize it's all about safety, and I think that's a big part of it. Most of the groups have insurance, they're well organized and that kind of thing, so, you know, I think this is an opportunity to encourage those that aren't to get that way. There are some very community-minded people in our village right now that are actually put off by the idea, and I don't think we've communicated to them that we don't control everything, we don't make all the rules, we're just gonna we can influence the part that applies to the village. The Ontario government, the federal government, they all have input into this too, things that have to happen if you're having a community event. I think it's our challenge to make it as simple and as Councillor Crapper said, make it something that the groups wanna do. Looking at it from another hat that I wear sometimes as a volunteer, I think that somebody starting up or a group just starting up, wanting to do good things in the community would look at this and say, that's a lot of work, I'm not sure. There's no provision in here for assistance. We're just telling the groups what they have to do. We're not And we haven't made any provision for leading them through it. I just think myself that it needs to be tuned up, and I don't think we can do it in tonight.
Hear me, we need to go through it as a team, and I'm feeling some resistance to that. That's my decision. We can go through it as a team in 2 weeks, if you want more time to think on it and come back with your suggestions. That's neither here nor there, but I'm not prepared to have individuals speak to staff without us hearing collectively what their suggestions are, because can go back and forth. So if the resistance is you're not ready tonight, then that's cool. Then we can put it off and do it in 2 weeks at council. But bring your suggestions. The point that you just made of how to lead them through it. Think of where does that get inserted? How do you get that into a document that we are going to edit, change, and adjust? But we've got the bones here of a policy. And Councillor Crapper, how to have some philosophical statements so that it encourages people and doesn't turn them off. Think of how to word that, and we can include it. Okay. Councillor Carney and then Councillor Aragon, and then we'll wrap it up.
So I think we've all read it, but I think if we had a working document where, I write something under this line, AC, Joe Aragona, AJ or JA. And so then by the next in 2 weeks, or if whenever we meet, that we have our suggestions or our thoughts already. Like I have notes here, we can go line by line, but if we have concerns or different wording, then we all have a working document that we can write on and say we don't like that or we like this, and then we come already with our notes, just a
Yeah.
suggestion.
Yeah, that sounds like a meeting that we can't have.
I heard a lot of things there, and I have to agree with Mayor Jones on that it shouldn't be written by one councillor, and I was not trying to imply that. So I just want to make sure that my fellow councillors understand that I'm not intending to imply that I have all the answers to how this should be written. So
I never thought that.
I just wanted to make that point, but I do think that some of the things that were just said are really important. We have to come at this from, in my mind, we have to come at this from 3 lenses. The first lens obviously is from the municipal lens of public safety. That's very important, but there's 2 lenses that we have to also keep in mind, and that's the economic development lens. And then there's the event organizer manager lens that we also have to keep in mind. So when I went through it with first the economic development, then the event manager. I'm gonna correct that actually. I'm gonna admit that I went through it as an event manager first. And then I looked at it as an event, economic development, and then I looked at public safety. So it's important for us to look at that. And, I did make 3 observations that are not line by line that I can provide to the rest of council, or I can mention them now, but that fit within that. And then it's up to council to decide whether or not we go through it, the committee today, to decide whether we do it now or whether we do it at another meeting. But I think those are the 3 things that struck me in the conversation we just had, that those 3 lenses are very important, and one can't sort of supersede the other. If this is going to be right as to Councillor Crapper's point about making it palatable for everybody that's involved, then it has to cover all 3 bases.
Fair enough. Fair enough. So we will defer this to the council meeting. And please, I know we've got probably.
I'd still like to see, and my whole concern is that I don't think enough of these groups were contacted. There's not enough input there.
There will be after we get it to where we want it to be, then it'll go out. We already know there's things in here we don't like, so why would I waste the Arts Council time?
I just look at it the other way, Your Worship. I look at it, why would we present something up front that we know is not gonna fly?
That's my point as well. So let's get it to where we think it's gonna fly.
But how do we do that without input?
Well, you represent several groups.
Yes, I do,
Okay, so we bring that
but
to
I
the
don't
table.
represent the Lions Club or the.
We will get there. We will get there. I think our duty is to get this into something that we can stand to, hone it down, build in the pieces that both you and Councillor Crapper have talked about, and then take it out to consultation with the groups.
All right, I'd be satisfied if we could, even an email to the groups and say, this is what's going on. I know it was posted on the website, but I can tell you right now that there aren't 2 people out of 10 that look at the website for very much.
So but where I'm going here is when we do the consultation, it is a document that we are in agreement with.
Absolutely.
The same as the last document, we asked people, I know I went back to my group after the CAO said, you know, she's gonna revise it. I said, don't read it because, you know, nothing's gonna come out of that. Why would we make the groups read this and then chunks get pulled out and those are the same things that they objected to? So we need to go through it as a group and take out what we want to take out, add in some of the fundamentals that you're talking about, and then the consultation will still get done, but it's gonna be a package that we can stand to, that we're showing to them, as opposed to something that you're all disagreeing with tonight. So it just doesn't make any sense to go ahead. So the question for the CAO is it deferral to council or to April committee?
I guess it's council's wish, whatever, how much ever time you need to get any comments together. And by the way, I wasn't suggesting it's just one consultation with Councilor Aragona. I like your idea of providing me everyone's feedback and then we can bring it back to committee or council. And then I can culminate it into one document.
And then go to the consultation and then bring it in, okay. So council meetings are often light. We are likely gonna have the audit meeting before that though. Is that right? Is that not on council day?
It's on the council day, yes, sorry, 4 PM prior to the council meeting.
Okay, so let's put this over to committee of the whole in April, in case the audit meeting goes long. And put your thoughts in. You're more than welcome to talk to people if you want to talk to them. We're not preventing that. We're just not doing it corporately. Let people know, they say, well, they're gonna have a chance to review it. The answer is yes, once we put together a document that we're satisfied with. Councilor Crapper.
If council doesn't go along at like, that wouldn't be a bad night if maybe we could consider being ready for with some thoughts on council night in case it turns out we have time.
I'm fine with that.
Can we defer it then? Like,
We can defer it, well, we could defer it to council.
Yeah.
And if we don't get to it, we'll defer it again. That way it gets on the
Yeah.
agenda.
Yeah.
Does that work?
Put it on the agenda.
Okay, does that work for you, CAO?
Yep.
Okay, so we're gonna defer it for 2 weeks. Do what you need to do, come back and we'll be prepared to add, edit, delete, modify. We know where we're going. I think Councilor Cardy said it best. You know, that the purpose of it is around public safety. Not to tick people off, not to have people think it's too much work and there's not enough help, but the situations have just changed in 2026 that we need the document. All right, so I've got the motion here. The movers, Councilor Aragona, and seconder is Councilor Cardy. Could I just ask you to defer instead? All right, so it's a deferral. All in favor? Oof. Ooh. There's a lot of words in discussion. It was probably like the better when I said special occasion permit. All right, sorry about that. Tongue in cheek, for sure. A 6.4 is Public Works, WTC Communication Center, GHG Plan Phase 1. Which is moved by Councilor Cardy, seconded by Councilor Aragona, that the Committee of the Whole received the report entitled WTC Communication Center GHC Plan Phase 1 Lighting. And that the Committee of the Whole recommend to council that council direct staff to engage our lighting and electrical contractor to install the lighting portion of the GHG reduction plan in an amount not to exceed $28,000 plus HST. And as it's an 80-20, that is, you've probably done the math, $4,700 or something out of our pocket, something like that. Any conversation? Go ahead, Councilor Carr.
It's times like this when I appreciate how far the village has come in the way of how we do things. 8 years ago, this would have been a toss up for a whole bunch of contractors that we didn't know, or, you know, they'd be coming out of the woodwork, but now we have a pre-qualified group of contractors for different areas. It makes the process a lot simpler and more straightforward in my mind, and I just think it's a big advantage for the village.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Anybody else? Go ahead, Councillor Argona.
I just need a clarity on financial tracking because I'm going to admit that I want to make sure that I'm tracking all this properly. So the 28K that is before us today, through you, Manager, to Manager of Public Works. The 28K that is before us today, was that part of the original phase one proposal that received the $2 million grant?
Go ahead, Peter.
So through your, it was part of phase one, but noted within that proposal that we would be doing it separately through a separate contractor, much better pricing.
Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah, so the 22.4 that is covered by the grant we already discussed, but 5,600 is not. Is that correct? Am I following that
Go ahead,
properly?
Peter.
Yep, through your, so yes, same answer as before, we're still actively looking for other grants. This would all be part of that as well, but the portion from the village would be that 20%.
Okay, and my last question is just, if I may,
Please.
through, just to make sure I fit this into that last piece, that 5,600 then is part of is that part of the 380 that was discussed during our last council meeting as needing funding?
Go ahead.
Yeah, through your schools.
Okay,
There you go.
I'm covered. Thank you very much.
Okay, great. You got a spreadsheet there, don't you?
I take extensive notes.
Very good. Anybody else? Call the question, then all in favor? Carried. Perfect. Okay, motions. Councillor Aragona, I give Councillor Aragona that to read.
Yeah. That's it.
Can read the motion if you like.
Okay. Whereas the council of the village of Westport has approved through budget processes, the installation and maintenance of an electric vehicle charging station to support tourism and economic development. And whereas the village of Westport provides the charging station as a free service to electric vehicle owners visiting the village. And whereas annual fee usage has increased since the installation of the charging station, while electricity rates continue to rise. Now therefore, the committee of the whole recommend that council direct staff to research and report back on the current costs of operating the charging station based on monthly hydro delivery charges, maintenance and data monitoring fees, idle fees, and any other fees incurred on a per charge basis, and provide an overview of user fees neighboring municipalities with similar municipally run EV stations have implemented.
Mover and seconder? Who moved it? The top, at the very top.
Moved by, well, I can't move it myself.
Well, yeah, that's why you're moving it.
Yes.
So say it out loud for the record.
Oh.
Moved by,
Moved by Joe Aragona, Councillor Joe Aragona, and seconded by Councillor Amy Gardy.
and as a mover, you can speak first.
Yeah, so this actually, in my mind, came up when we were doing budget process last time around. And also after some research that I had done on electric vehicle charging stations and what some of the electricity providers are charging for delivery fees that councils may or may not be aware. So based on that, I did a little bit more research in the area and some other municipalities to see what was going on. And this issue had come up in one other neighboring municipality, South Frontenac, had an issue with their charging stations and what they were being charged. Now, they are being serviced by Ontario Hydro as opposed to RSL, but I couldn't find anywhere in our reports back from RSL what our delivery fees are for the charging stations. So that's where this originated.
Okay, good. Any comments on the recommendation? Go ahead, Councillor Carr.
I think it's a great idea that we know how much it costs, given the consideration too, that it is an attraction to the village. I mean, if you can charge your electric vehicle and go downtown, buy a shirt or a trinket or groceries, I think that's a plus, but it should be cost effective, I think, so we should know what it's costing.
Yeah, I agree. We need to know how much it is and then make the decision. Go ahead, Councillor Crafton.
So, might understand that people don't pay a dime to charge their cars. I was always under the impression that it was a credit card thing.
In some places, not here.
Yeah.
Mhm. So I think it's a really good point that Councillor Aragona has raised is, we don't know how much it costs. You know, at the end of the day, it could be like $25 a month and we'd say, why bother with the admin? But it could be a heck of a lot more and then council will have the information to take that decision. That's your point, right?
That's my point.
Okay, so this is a recommendation to to direct staff to come back with a study and a report. I'm just gonna call the question, then all in favor, carried. Okay, well done. Any information items today?
Your worship with you.
Yeah, I see that.
Our rec managers prepared a schedule for the March break for the arena and
So this is just great. I mean, I can remember, the discussions about the position and we crawl, walked, run. We tried it. I mean, we were so lucky that, a former Westport person moved back that really had the skills, particularly when we were starting it. This is great. I have questions about the dance, but I will ask him about the dance. Okay, anybody else have any announcements? Go ahead, Councillor Argona.
One announcement, if the council has received the latest newsletter from WTG, the Westport Tourism Group, they would have noticed that the new Westport tourism website launched over the weekend at escapetowestport.ca. If you haven't seen it, take a look at it. It's the foundation upon which we're going to be building marketing programs moving forward, and it was launched Saturday and is live right now.
It was what, Westport?
At escape to Westport,
Escape to Westport.
escape to westport.ca.
Well done. I didn't see it. Great.
Yeah.
There it is.
Great.
Anybody, anything else? St. Patrick's Day next week?
Yes.
It's today? Okay, then we'll keep moving. Any questions from the public?
No.
And, any questions from the media? Nothing today? Okay, so that's probably us. Point one. 8.1. Oh, well, we've got a motion for the flyer. It's moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper, that committee of the whole receive item 8.1, which is the rec flyer for information. All in favor? Okay, we're gonna go into close just for a few moments. Or I think it's for a few moments. The agenda. Thank you, Susanna.
Oh, not me.
Thank you. Bye now. Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. We're back after having our in-camera meeting, and the motion to come out of closed is moved by Councillor Card, seconded by Councillor Crapper. The committee met in closed session to consider the security of the property of the municipality and took no action beyond receiving the information from staff. Call that question, all in favor, and that's carried. So we're finished. The adjournment, just a reminder, homework to do for the next meeting in relation to that proposed bylaw. So it's moved by Councillor Crapper, seconded by Councillor Card, that this meeting of the committee of the whole, the village of Westport, be adjourned at 6:32 PM. All in favor? And we are adjourned. Thank you so much, everybody. Appreciate great debates, good discussions.